Hello and welcome to another episode of Amrit Kal Ki Aur. I would request Samirji, you have to tilt the phone horizontal, otherwise,
This
yeah,
better?
this
Okay,
one is.
sure.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Amrit Kal Ki Aur. Today we have a very eminent person, Mr. Samir ji. He is very well known in the realm of economic affairs. He has an illustrious career in corporate world. He has a PhD from IIM Bangalore. He had his masters in economics from Gokul Institute of Politics and Economics. Today, for this episode, we will discuss in details with him, with Samirji, um, on his understanding of this budget that was presented this year and the overall structural reforms that have been brought in by Prime Minister Modi over the last 10 years. Over to you, Dr. Kagalkar. I would rather prefer to call you Samirji. I mean, that creates more affinity. Samirji, over to you.
Thank you so much for having me on this program. Truly a big privilege and a pleasure being here. And as you rightly said, the kind of a transformational change that has happened in the 10 years is what once again seen in this budget as well. So when I say transformational change, what does that mean? It means at two, three levels. What I would rather call it as Vyaktitva, Kartritva, Netritva. All these things, three things have come together to bring about the transformation that the country is seeing. So, what do I mean by the term Vyaktitva? It is the characteristics and the features of Prime Minister Modi. Someone who is highly committed, someone who is non corrupt, someone who is highly visionary, and therefore decisive, bold, and decisive. These forms the characteristics of a leader. Then you come to the next part of it, which is Kartritva. What is it that he has done? So Kartritva can be probably looked at two levels. What is that he has done, and how is it that he has done? So if you look at what is it that he has done, we can look at the framework that the Prime Minister himself has given as the ease of living on the one hand and the ease of doing business on the other hand. Ease of living is all about making the life of a common man that much easier. I mean, what we take it for granted, what you and I take it for granted, was a big, big luxury for millions and millions of people. We take it for granted. We have a tap connectivity at home. We take it for granted that we have a gas cylinder, electricity, you have a bank account, you have healthcare access, a house, so on and so forth. But that's not the case of a common man. Prime Minister ensured right from water to toilets to electricity to gas to medicine to financial inclusion, access to healthcare, and so on and so forth. That became a different kind of a life for a common man. That was the ease of living, so as to put in a one single all-encompassing word. So when you come to the next part of it, that is ease of doing business, enabling the businesses, the startups, and the professionals to let their wings fly. That became the second part of it. So, what is it that the Prime Minister did? Ease of living and ease of doing business. How is it that he did? That becomes a part of the Kartritva, another aspect of Kartritva. He did it at speed, scale, and sensitivity. I mean, it is not to say that earlier governments didn't do roads or they didn't build airports or they didn't give water connectivity or light connectivity to people. But whatever they did was at such a small scale that they lacked the vision of a big dream. The big vision that you need to dream. You're talking of not some 50 lakhs or 1 crore toilets, but you're talking of 12 crore toilets. You're talking of all the 18,000 villages that had never seen electricity get electrification. You're talking of 9 crore houses getting water connection in the last 4 years. I mean, each and everything that you get to see, the Prime Minister dreams big for the country. So much so that he dreams big for the country to become the third largest economy in any time soon, probably a year or two. We should be heading that way. So that is the speed, that's the scale. Scale is what we spoke of, and speed is what Prime Minister incidentally says, and more than that, we get to see. He has done what probably the Congress would have taken 10 times more time. They would have taken 12 kilometers per day road to build. and probably under Modi ji's leadership, you have Gadkari ji building 28 kilometers, 30, and probably going up to 37 kilometers a day. So this is the kind of a speed with which they are working on all aspects. You had 74 airports in the last 60 years, 65 years, and in 10 years you have got 74 more airports added. And just to give this instance to say that the kind of a scale and speed that's being done. Along with it, the most important aspect is sensitivity or compassion or empathy, the kind of an empathetic decisions and the schemes that's been undertaken is truly, truly transformational. Imagine a poor woman, a poor destitute woman getting 1,000 rupee as a widow pension. Okay, if she has to get that 1,000 rupees widow pension, should have had to go to the AC's office or the Tahsildar's office 10 times, probably make a line outside her office, his office, wait for them for hours together. And the unstated thing is probably let go of some 300, 400 rupees to get the remaining part of her. But come DBT, what did Prime Minister do? She is sitting at home, and automatically in the first of every month there is an SMS that drops into her phone that says you got 1,000 rupees credited into your account. That is compassion. That is sensitivity. So if you look at the very nature, the leadership qualities of the person, the Vyaktitva with the Kartritva, that's what leads you to the Netritva. When you say Netritva is all about leadership, is all about having a vision. You having a vision, you are seeing when people can't see. You see that the Indian economy is massively capable of being a very big economy, fifth place as of now, and probably the third place anytime soon in a year or two. You can lead the whole world in terms of a solar alliance. You can lead the country in terms of building a vaccine program that's as good as the US vaccine. Earlier, compare this, you would take 30 years, 35 years after the US and the Europeans were done with their requirements, right? So, this is what a leadership is. So, in 10 years, transformation, if you'd want me to summarize, I'd rather put this in simplistic framework of the Vyaktitva of the Prime Minister, Kartritva in terms of what and how, and Netritva, therefore taking up leadership position, be it spacecraft, be it vaccines, be it solar alliance, and even in the G20, we saw the way he is able to bring the global south, the African Union, having a voice through the G20 and now the G21 platform. So this is broadly what India has transformed in the last 10 years in a very, very brief and a simplistic manner.
Well, wonderfully, it has been summarized by you. Um, Perhaps we can also say that a significant portion of the population of the country, which was permanently dependent on government, are today being enabled through productive, delivery of services to the beneficiaries. They are being enabled today to become productive contributor to the economy. For example, would you agree that the same people who got the toilets and those same people who have been beneficiary of the DBT or the Mudra Yojana have transformed themselves from job seekers to perhaps job providers, like 8 crore new entrepreneurs created by Mudra Yojana. So I would request, sir, your view on that.
Absolutely rightly said. I mean, if anything, one gets to see the vision of the Prime Minister, wherein each one of us will become contributor in whatever level to the country, to the economy, to the society. I mean, he has put it in as many words by saying "Sabka Prayas." Now it's a journey, and therefore, at this point in time, probably some people might be needing state support. That could be in the form of a Swanidhi for a street hawker, for a Mudra loan for a small-time entrepreneur, Startup India for a back. Late community like let's say a SC, or a women segment. These are the segments, as you rightly said, turned entrepreneurial. They started becoming job creators. They started flying their wings so high that not just themselves, but the entire space that they were in. It could be a local village economy, small mid-urban economy, or an urban economy, that they were able to take them along with it. It's for nothing that we get to see today that the country, which was just about 1.25 trillion dollar economy 10 years ago, is already come close to 4 trillion economy. The GDP per capita has almost doubled, or a bit more than doubled. If you look at the farmer's income, given the fact that he very smartly made them less dependent on farming alone and supplemented it beautifully with, it could be the honeybee rearing, it could be poultry, it could be dairy farming, and so on and so forth. Matsya Sampada, fisheries. He brought in so many other complementary things so that their risk is diversified, as we talk in a management parlance, and they were able to have a stable, sustainable income, which turned out to be really good for them. To reiterate and move on with what you said, turning people into entrepreneurs, turning people into contributors to the economy. That's been the biggest contribution of Prime Minister Modi. And if anything, he's been very vocal about it. People, please don't be dependent on the jobs either of the government or the private sector. You be job creator, and we will enable you. I think that is the message. That's a message of confidence. That's a message of trust. I mean, people trust him, having seen him deliver. People trust him because he himself has come from where? From being a very small time tea seller to become the prime minister of the country, to become the most loved and approved, having an approval rate prime minister or a leader across the world. So when he says that I have done it myself, and this is what I have plans for you people, so selflessly, that instills a sense of confidence, that instills a sense of trust in the people. So automatically people start doing. I would want to give one instance. I work very closely with the CEO of Ola Cab, and Mr. Bhavish Agrawal, he said that he was so inspired by the way Prime Minister started looking at the containment of the COVID epidemic and the vaccine creation and its administration. He went on to create a future factory, as they call it, the EV factory that they've built in Tamil Nadu, in about 6 to 8 months' time. Unbelievable. And all that he says is, if our Prime Minister, in his age and having the responsibility, the whole country can do so much, he's inspired us to do. This is what we get to see hundreds and thousands of such entrepreneurs and achievers. You look at sports, you look at academicians, you look at entrepreneurs, you look at any segment for the matter, they get inspired by the prime minister. I think this is what one thing that we generally take it for granted when we're analyzing the economy, but we miss saying explicitly that the leadership trust that he inspires, the confidence that he inspires, make other people amplify their own potential and deliver.
Yeah, absolutely. That these are the traits of genuinely true leaders who create leaders in turn in different fields and inspire common people to take leadership position. Interestingly, Samirji, I think that probably the most transformational and phenomenal metamorphosis of India came at a very difficult time when I think the world had literally written us off during the COVID time. People had thought 30 crore people would either get infected or they would be dead. Those were the times when Prime Minister Modi, with the same bureaucracy, which was there during UPA time also, not only ensure that 200 crore plus people get free vaccine, but also ensure that the rations are given and some of the most critical structural reforms which were required, such as the production linked incentive or the Atmanirbhar Bharat, the entire gamut of Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative, including the Gati Shakti, everything went together at a time when the world was telling that India is gone. That is the time when India transformed into the fifth largest economy and emerged as in the words of IMF, the bright spot in the dark horizon. So, in the most difficult time, he has done it. How would you analyze that?
Oh, absolutely well said. I mean, you pointed it so right that as the Prime Minister himself said, Apadame Avasar, as in find an opportunity in a crisis, turn a crisis into an opportunity for doing transformational work. That's exactly what he has done. One fantastic word that probably it's a bit technical on the economic terms, but I still would want to take this is he took a stance when, in terms of COVID stimulus, contrarian to the whole world. The whole world believes, I mean, just to sort of help the viewer understand, when the supply and demand both have suddenly stopped because of a lockdown, you need to revive it, right? So, how do you revive it? Either you can revive the supply part or the demand part. The easiest part, as the leaders across the world did, was stimulus the demand, put more money into the hands of the people. And it's so easy to say, plus highly populist. Suddenly the leader starts giving 10,000 rupees into your hands, you start feeling good. That's exactly what Mr. Trump did in the US, right? But the point is, someone who understands economics, I mean, it's so pleasantly ironical. Someone who says that I'm just a chai wala, I'm just a tea seller's son, he understands economics so well. He said there is a huge demand as seen in terms of the latent banking strength. Generally, the banking deposits would be in the range of about 1.5 lakh crore at that point in time, of the year. Due to lockdown and COVID, it had gone up to about 3.5 to 4 times, close to about 5 lakh crore. Which means using your common sense and applying your mind, you get to see that it's not the lack of money with the people, right? There is enough and more money. It's just that they are hesitant to use. So putting more money, even they're already putting it in the bank, doesn't make any sense. Then what needs to be done is kickstart the supply part of it. The very fact that you're kickstarting the supply part, which means to say you get more and more to produce, therefore employ more people, therefore put more money in the hands of the people and in the hands of the industry because of the sales, and therefore in the hands of the government due to taxes, the economy comes back. And the outcome, the proof of pudding is in eating. The whole world went through a horrible economic situation. Inflation hit the roof. US generally has about 1.25 or 1.5% inflation. India on an average would always have about 5 to 6%. During this peak COVID and post COVID, India had about 7.5 or 7.7 at a very, very peak time. Otherwise, it was hovering in the range of about 6, 6.5. Later on, came down below that as well. But the highest was about 7.5. US came close to about 8.5. Unthinkable for a 1.5% inflation economy to hit the 8%. UK double digit, crossed the double digits. Turkey, for instance, went to about 65%. So the point is the whole world try to put more money into the hands of the people, trying to do a demand stimulus. When Prime Minister Modi took a very clear-cut strategic decision to kickstart the supply part of it. Therefore, we were not only able to grow, therefore you get to see a 7% growth as we get to see today, but at the same time, we hardly had any inflationary impact. And even that inflationary impact was predominantly due to the external import. That is, one was due to the supply chain disruption in the oil front, oil as in the edible oil front. Second one was the wheat and oil once again through Russia-Ukraine war, right? So if you were to discount that, we had a complete control on the inflation aspect of it. Along with it, we were able to grow as well. So this, as you rightly said, from being written off in a way, अरे इंडिया में बहुत fight हो जाएगा, to India leading the whole world. You developing a vaccine of your own, administering 220 crore doses to your countrymen with a large swath of land and people spread across the length and breadth of the country is, and that too using technology. America still used paper in order to say that you got a certification of a vaccination, but you have it here online, digital, at the click of a button. So on these fronts, it's definitely a proud moment for each of us to say uh, the kind of leadership that Prime Minister Modi showed and delivered in the last 3, 4 years during pandemic and post-pandemic, and that was truly gratefully acknowledged by the countries across the world. When they came for G20, they applauded the vaccine Maitri. They applauded the fact that it's India acting as an engine of growth for the whole world. It's not just about India sustaining herself, but acting as a growth engine for the whole world. I think when you get to hear these things from the IMF, the World Bank, and the other nations, truly there is a sense of pride in you to have a leadership in the form of Prime Minister Modi.
So I mean, just to add to what you said, let me give an example for the viewers. That last year, Air India gave a order of 470 aircraft, Tata Air India, and almost I think 220 to 230 aircraft will be bought from Boeing. And President Biden said that time when the deal was being signed online, both President Macron and President Biden was there along with Prime Minister Modi virtually, and he said that it is going to create 1 million jobs in United States. Uh,
Undoubtedly, undoubtedly. So this is the true growth engine for the whole world.
And today, the whole world, most of the Western countries who were writing us off are in recession, whereas India is growing. My last and a short question to you. Also, the Prime Minister took some very, very difficult decisions of structural reforms, which could have had negative impact in terms of electoral politics, and yet he went ahead, whether it is GST or demonetization or Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code Act, and many others like that. Your view on that?
I mean, absolutely. He, in as many words, said, I do what is not that pleases, or I don't do what the people think is right, but I do what is right for the people. If it's a
Absolutely.
GST that is a need for the nation, he's done it and done it in a magnificent manner by taking all the stakeholders along. I'm sure people would have read late Arun Jaitley ji's blog or his book about New India. So beautifully writes about the fact how the earlier government, the UPA government, actually conned the various states, while Prime Minister Modi ensured that the states were compensated for the central sales tax compensation that the UPA didn't give, and not only that, also factored in the compensation in the law for full 5 years and brought it up. Today, we get to see GST earning about collections being about 1.7 lakh crore month on month. An amazing thing that speaks of the kind of an outcome that his tough decisions have taken. Take the banking for that matter. We were in a situation wherein the banking would have collapsed. The NPA had hit the roof. The net NPA ratio is about 6% plus. Today, the net NPA ratio is sub 1%. But that he did by openly acknowledging that the banks have an issue, asking them to have a look at the asset categorization part of it, recapitalize the banks if required, have a very strict norm on them. And today, the last financial year, all the public sector banks put together gave a check of 1 lakh crore profits. So, which means to say, the kind of a transformation and turnaround that is brought in, it's thanks to his vision, conviction, and his execution capability. I mean, all the things that you get to see, be it the banking, be it the PLI through which the mobile phones have generated a big buzz, or probably the export that we have got to see the first time ever crossing $400 billion, goods export. Each and every domain, each and every vertical, you get to see that he's brought about a massive transformation through this mantra: reform, perform, transform.
Thank you so much, Samir ji, and we would like to have you in person in the Delhi office soon enough for
Very nice.
uh, for another program that we have. It's called the Viksit Bharat series. It would be great to have you again for any other topic, because there are so many other different topics to discuss, on which the Prime Minister has performed and given leadership for others to deliver. It was great talking to you, and I'm sure your words have been very enlightening for the audience. It was an honor for me also to interview you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely pleasure being here. Thanks so much for the opportunity. And it's a real big pleasure talking about the kind of achievements and transformations Prime Minister Modi and his team have done. Thanks so much for having me. And I look forward to being there in your Delhi office very soon.
Thank you
Namaste.
so much. Thank you.